Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about My Morphin Power Rangers Season 2 Zedd's Monster Bash. When it comes to Season 2 of Power Rangers, well, Mighty Morphin that is, it's not particularly my favorite. Mainly because of all the awkwardness with the whole original like red, black, and yellow Ranger leaving the show and being a kid watching this. I didn't understand what the world was going on. I didn't understand why Zach, Jason, and Trini were constantly missing throughout the show. And then when they did show up, they would always only show up morphed. And when they did, their voices sounded very awkward. Like I knew something was going on, but I just didn't know quite what until it actually happened. And they were constantly showing like Aisha, Rocky, and Adam, and I'm just like, man, this is like weird. Like, what's going on? And then it finally happened. A couple episodes later, they left and stuff. So it's one of those like awkward, wonky type of like situations. Plus, I always thought it was weird when Tommy came back as the White Ranger. He became the leader, and Jason no longer was, and Jason didn't seem to care. So that always seemed strange to me. Well, anyways, so like Zedd's Monster Bash. In this episode, it's now revealed that they're gonna be that Peace Corps thing that the three Rangers gonna go to, and they're gonna leave. And Billy and Kimberly are talking. They want to know like what does that mean for them as like Rangers and how their team gonna like survive after that. This Halloween episode isn't particularly my favorite. There's not a whole lot of like cool stuff that happens other than like the Tommy like solo fight when he is unmorphed. And so like oh my bad. It's God, what time is it? It's about like 12. I need to stop staying up so late, man. I keep going to bed at 3 and 4 in the morning. Like what in the world? And so like it's just not a particularly good episode. Not a whole lot happens. I do give them credit for the editing. Like the editing was done pretty interesting to where it tricked me as a kid. And now that I know like why it was edited the way it was, I'm just like, oh, okay. So anyway, they're at the youth center, and it's Billy and it's Kimberly, and they're getting stuff ready because they're gonna take a bunch of kids trick or treating. The teenagers are gonna do it for the kids. Let's see. Ernie shows up in this episode. I think he's a pimp. I'm not quite sure. I know Billy for a fact is like Albert Einstein, and Kimberly seems to be like a doll, which is different because normally she's a princess. But at least this time she changed up. And Bulk and Skull, they are like Roman gladiators. Tommy is a pirate. And so when they're getting the kids ready for trick-or-treating, Zedd's all like, he loves Halloween, getting stuff from a bunch of strangers and all this other stuff. And you know, if they don't give you a treat, you'll give them a trick. Like he just loves Halloween. I thought that was so hilarious. So that's back when he was cool funny, before they made him dorky, silly funny in the third season. So like he said that, you know, he's gonna have like all his famous monsters show back up and all this other stuff, and he's gonna send the White Ranger into like his dark dimension and stuff. And so there was some interesting things that happened. So like he sent down his putties, and his putties were supposed to like disguise themselves as kids. They decided to go as like Power Rangers, but with like black boots, gloves, and stuff like that. So Tommy, he's like, okay, kids, ready to go trick or treating and stuff like that. So they go, and of course, like Goldar shows up, and so the kids turn into putties, and they take Tommy to like the dark dimension. This dark dimension seems to be completely different from that of Rita's. Like Zedd's dark dimension is just pretty much like a dark forest and stuff. And so when I do say the editing was good, I don't mean the entire episode. Like I only mean like in the Zord battle, and I'll get to that part later. The rest of the editing is kind of like weird. There's continuity issues. Jeez, I'm tired. Sorry about that. So Tommy, he's fighting the Putties, and this is when I said this is like the really cool part, man. Jason David Franks, man, when it comes to martial art, this dude knows how to open up the proverbial can of blank. So like this dude is just whooping on all these putties and stuff. And then at some point, like the monsters show up. And it's monsters from the past. So that was nice to see. And they take his morpher, so he's unable to morph, so he's fighting them on morph. I'm sorry, I'm so yawning. I'm so tired, man. Jeez. I am exhausted. So anyway, his choreography was really good and stuff. Actually, some of his choreography happened before he got to the dark dimension when he was fighting the putties. I forgot about that. I remember seeing him flip over like a fence or a gate or something like that. And you know, this is what Hasbro and needs to really do. They need to bring back the unmorphed fights, and they need to get people who actually know martial arts, because that's really great. And so I just remember like somewhere halfway into the Fox Kids, they stopped that. And the unmorphed fight started getting very lame to when they became non-existent. And so like there's this one monster. I guess they needed extra footage. So they found this one monster that like turned the key in one part of the dark dimension, looked like a bunch of dark clouds, and it goes to like a grave and turned that. Maybe it's part of the Sendai for that episode. Maybe it's for another episode. I'm not really 100% sure. But he serves absolutely no purpose. He said that nobody can get in or out of the dark dimension once he turns this key. But then people end up teleporting there and teleporting out. So there's a lot of continuity issues in this episode. It was this had to have been a rushed episode. So like when earlier when Bulk and Skull saw like the evil Power Ranger kids and stuff, this is the season when they started to like, you know, wanted to discover who the Power Rangers really were. And so they're all like, those, like, there's like a bunch of like kids dressed as Power Rangers. And they came to the idea, well, Bulk did, that the Power Rangers must like shrink down and all this other stuff. And this is a weird like Bulk theory. So they're like going trick-or-treating, trying to find everybody dressed like a Power Ranger and trying to demask them. When they do, they get sprayed with some stuff and then they start eating candy. Lots and lots of candy to the point where they get sick. Anyway, so Kimberly and Billy, they're just hanging out and they're all like, where's Tommy? All the kids are accounted for, so who are the kids with him? So then they call up Zordon, they transport to the command center, and Zordon knew this whole time Tommy was taken to the dark dimension, and he said nothing. Like, come on, Zordon, you're off your rocker. So, like, they morph, and they go. And so, then they're able to get Tommy Morpher, and he morphs. I have to say, the American fighting footage for back in the day, like the Mighty Morphin stuff, the American footage, it was very weak. Their fighting choreography was just lame. Like, I'm sorry to stunt people who was doing it, but it was nothing like the Sentai. And it was nothing like the Rangers did when they was unmorphed. It just was like unoriginal. Nothing. Basically what it is that there's a monster, everybody's standing around, they throw a punch, they block, they throw a punch or they kick, and then they stand and look around. Over and over, that's all they do. And I remember I used to see this back in the day when I was a kid. From season 2 and season 3, I'm just like, man, when they're fighting people, they sure do stand around a lot and just throw one punch or one kick. Like, what the world is that about? Like, thank God, when the Disney era came, my God, they kicked up the action. It was some extremely good choreography. The Nickelodeon one, the Neo Saban Hasbro one, they kind of went a little weak again. But man, you gotta give it up to the Disney era when it came to the fight choreography for the American footage, because they went all out. And so, like, Zordon see the Rangers, they need help. So Alpha decides he's gonna go with the kids so that Jason, Trini, and Zach can, like, show up. Now Zordon makes a point to give us some exposition talking about send the coordinates so when the Rangers get there, they can all automatically be morphed. I just always think that was so weird. I'm just like, hey, something is going on, man. So they show up morphed. It's some weird new voices. As soon as they show up, they just call on the Zords. And this is when the continuity gets a little strange again. So, something I forgot to mention. When the kids go on trick-or-treating, it was during the daytime. I'm like, who goes trick-or-treating during the daytime? But of course, back in those days, they used to film like 3 episodes and like in the mornings and in the afternoon. And they weren't allowed to like film at night when it comes to little kids and stuff. So I used to always think that was always weird how Power Rangers were almost never at nighttime. So anyway, they call on the Zords, and all of a sudden now they're out of the dark dimension, and now or maybe they're still in the dark dimension. Like, I don't know, but now it's daytime and stuff. I'm like, what happened to the nighttime? And also, nobody's supposed to like get in and out, but yet they're getting out. And so the pumpkin wrapper, he's the only one who goes big. Now, this is when I say the editing was kind of interesting because, okay, the Sentai footage, the pumpkin wrapper, when he goes big, this is from season 1. They didn't show this in season 1. In that Halloween episode, they just blasted him with a power blaster and he got destroyed. But there was actually a Sentai fight that they kept out of it. Now they used for this one. Only problem is the Zord is completely different. Now they have the Thunder Zords instead of the Dino Zords. So they can't show the pumpkin wrapper or the Zord actually hitting like each other. So basically what it is, they stand there, one cut, and they go to another cut to the Zords, and back to the monster. The Rangers like blast him, and then it hits like the pumpkin wrapper with a completely different like energy blast. But the way it is sometimes cut is kind of like, oh, you just won't really always notice, And so like it's a lame Zord fight. It happens very quickly and stuff. He's destroyed. Zedd's pissed off. This is what I used to love about Lord Zedd. When he gets mad, he glows red. I hope in Dino Fury they make him do that too. That'd be a nice homage and stuff. And so they head back to the youth center. Of course, Zach, Trini, and Zach are not there. And Bulk and Skull show up, and they're like really sick. And then it just ends. And I'm just kind of like, this just wasn't a very good episode. It was just too many errors and strange stuff like happening, and some really bad editing choices when it came to like matching certain Sentai footage together. The only thing I give them credit for is the solo Tommy fight unmorphed and the editing to where like it tricked me to where I didn't know Pumpkin Rapper was fighting the Thunder Megazord. That's the only credits I can give them for this episode. Other than that, it was just a very weak episode. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.